Thompson here, and I'm going to share how I do the rubber band technique. The first way I do it is using an acrylic block, and I'm just taking a couple of thin elastic bands and wrapping them around the block. This is going to create a design on my block that will transfer to my paper. So I'm just using regular cardstock for this. I'm using an anti-static tool first, and I'm just going to ink up the block with Versamark and lightly tap onto my cardstock. The Versamark will also transfer to the block, so if you tap it lightly, that way it will just transfer the lines from the elastic bands. Now I'm going to heat emboss this with silver embossing powder. My sample cards are done in white, but I want you to be able to see the design, so I'm doing the samples in silver. Now you can see the lines of the elastic bands that transferred. The next thing for me to do is to heat emboss that design, and I have one here that's done, so you can see the shine from the heat embossing. Now this background is great all by itself, or you can add some color. So I'm going to show you two examples of how I've added color. The first piece uses regular cardstock, and I've got two colors of distress ink and sponges. And I'm just going to sponge on the color over top of my white heat embossing. I'm just blending the colors as I go with the sponging. Now once this is dry, actually it's not dry yet, but I want to show you, you should just buff it with a paper towel to remove any of the ink that would sit on top of the embossing powder. Now here's a card I've made with a background that's very similar. I'm going to share close-ups of the cards I've made at the end of the video. Now the next one is with mixed media paper, and I'm using it because it takes some water. So I'm doing the same thing, sponging on the two colors. This is going over top of the heat embossed white design from the elastic bands. I'm just giving a little spritz of water, and I'm taking a water brush. I'm just going to move that color around, mixing and blending, but keeping some of the colors distinct, and removing any excess water. And this creates a really easy watercolor background. Now I've used the same background to create this card. The second way I do rubber band embossing is with a rubber brayer. So the barrel comes off, and I'm just going to take 3 thin elastics and wrap them around the barrel. And then I can snap it back into the handle. Now again, I'm going to heat emboss this sample in silver so you can see the design, but my card samples will be in white. Just going to take an anti-static tool and just go over my cardstock. This is just regular cardstock. I've got my Versamark pad, and I'm just going to take the brayer and I'm going to roll it always in the same direction. That way the barrel will turn completely around and all the elastic bands will get covered with the Versamark. So you want to do a very light touch because the barrel will pick up ink, and you don't want the barrel to touch your cardstock, just the elastic bands. And you need to also re-ink it after every swipe of the brayer. So I did one direction diagonally, and now I've turned the page and I'm doing it the other way diagonally. And this will create a crossover diamond pattern. But you can move the brayer around however you want to make a design. This creates a really nice background with a diamond design, and I'm just going to show you, I've heat embossed one, and you can see how it's shiny, and it would make a beautiful background just the way it is. Now I've done another one where I've just put the brayer straight up and down, and this is the pattern that I got from that, and it's heat embossed silver. Now I used a background similar to that. I did the splash watercolor over top on mixed media paper, and I've die cut this leaf to create this card. And I used the same piece of paper to get a second die cut of this framed fern. So I got the two cards out of the one piece. So now I'll show you my other card designs that are done in white. The first one was on regular cardstock, and I've sponged it like I did for the first card I showed you. And this is the card that I made from that background. And the second one was mixed media. I did a splash watercolor background and used a similar background to create this card, using it as the die cut. I'm just going to show you some other examples. This is just plain cardstock, different colors, with matching inks and no heat embossing. It gives a totally different look. This is a gold foil with tinsel embossing, also very pretty. Now for this sample, this is black with a heat embossed garden patina, which is turquoise, and I've used a similar panel to create this card. And my last sample is green cardstock with green ink, no heat embossing, and I used it to create this card. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.